we've just taken a decision that we want to invest in certain technologies, and sometimes we would share it between projects, and that makes it for us cost effective. So the latest thing which we've done is the virtual reality training. Now we are using probiotics, enzymes, etc. in opening clogged drains or blocked drains. When you are looking at differential pressure across certain filters, how can you read it so that you go to more predictive maintenance? We're using the thermal imaging for certain boards, DB boards, to see how it is working. You said something about doing something right from the first time. That's the definition of effectiveness. So the trick is how to have the buy-in and that culture reside within your team.
Welcome to the Green Minds podcast, where we explore innovations driving us towards a more sustainable future. I'm Laban, your host. Today I'm joined by Mohamad Abou Laban, a leader with over 23 years of experience in facilities management in the Gulf. Mohamad has driven significant business growth and led successful transformations in leading FM organizations in the UAE. Welcome, Mohamad.
Thank you. Good morning.
So, to just start off, how do you land up in FM and what makes you passionate about it?
Okay, two questions. So it's actually a nice story. How did I end up in FM? I started my career, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I was working in construction and supervision. Actually, it was the palace of King Salman. At the time, he was the Prince of Riyadh. But anyhow, long story short, I came for a visit here to see my fiancée, which is now my wife. And she planned with her brother for me a couple of interviews because she didn't want to live in Saudi. She wanted to live here. So I did 4 interviews with construction companies and 1 with FM company. And when I did that interview, it just, felt as if it's the right thing for me. Dynamic environment. Every day you have a different, thing. You wear a suit a lot of time, which for me in construction, I couldn't do it. And the environment is just a lot of things to learn, from cleaning to maintenance to catering to security, etc. So that's how I end up in facilities management. I had a 5-hour interview. The last one with a gentleman called Scott Wilson. He used to be the managing director of Amcor, and he wanted me to start in business development as the BDM, and I negotiated backwards more than 50% of my salary so that I can start in operation, so that I can learn the operation and learn the product, learn the service before I sell it. So I stayed in operation for a couple of years, and then I moved to BD, which actually was really worth the investment that I've done. So that's the first part of the question. The second part was about what makes you passionate. What makes me passionate? In FM, we touch people every day. So if you look at our video of OCS about purpose, maybe people can have a look at it. You'll find that the video is how we actually affect people in their day-to-day jobs. So we touch them in, if he's a musician and going to the opera, to actually be part of a concert, or a singer, or a patient in a hospital, or anybody in any different facility, student, resident, in your office. So we touch them. So we need to look at how can we make their experience better, and keep thinking about how can we do it better is what makes me passionate about, the industry. Now, especially, we are talking about AI, VR, IoT. How can we actually embed it to benefit the end user and enhance his experience? Is something that at the moment is actually keeping me, interested about the industry.
And the industry is growing very fast. I mean, at the moment, I think the annual growth rate is around 8.4%. So how do you actually, as an FM company, stay in check with that? How do you follow that growth? I mean, that must be very hard.
You said 8.4 or 8.5. I think it's about 10.5 according to the report that I've recently read. But It's very interesting that this industry is growing. Obviously, real estate is booming. You have a lot of schools opening, a lot of residential towers,
Yeah.
commercial towers, entertainment facilities. So obviously, everybody needs FM. Now, surprisingly, only 45% are actually outsourcing, and the rest are still doing in-house.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I,
Yeah.
read this report. But in some Emirates in the UAE, the preference is actually to keep things in-house till now.
Yeah.
So we are keeping up with the growth by actually participating as much tenders as possible. Our BD team does a great job of approaching clients that either are outsourcing, but are outsourcing in a model where it is a single line service, so outsourcing cleaning or maintenance. And I think the market is going towards the TFM.
Yeah.
And the other clients, which are the harder approach, harder sell, is where they do in-house and you want to take them to outsource. And they their comparison is sometimes wrong.
Yeah.
So they would say, oh, the cleaner cost me 1,000 dirhams, you are selling it for 2,500 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand what is a CTC, a cost to company. So there's the visa cost, there's the insurance, the accommodation, all those things that you need to educate the client. Plus, what is the benefit of having a team, an FM company, a multinational company with a huge experience that can support him in reaching his goals faster.
Yeah.
So because you can have the same team, self-employed, and you can take that same team and put it within a structure of a company, and that company, like ours, is 124 years old company, 120,000 employees. We actually reached 130,000 employees last month. With all this information and knowledge, those same team that you move them from this gentleman where he's doing it in-house to an outsource model, they get trained, they get developed, they get new techniques how to implement something or something have implemented in other project in another country. You can build a bridge to bring that knowledge and implement it in his project, being a mall, a residence, a complex, whatever it is.
Yeah. And when OCS obviously is a global company, so there's a wealth of knowledge, experience from all over. When you compare the UAE FM market with other parts of the world, the West, do you think that there is still a very large knowledge/experience gap comparatively, or?
To be honest, UAE is somehow a mature market. So it depends on the client.
Yeah.
Some clients, as I mentioned to you, till now still want to have in-house. Some people want to tender a single service to mitigate the risk. And you can find in airports till today, they are, outsourcing a single service, which even in abroad they do it. And they do it because they want to mitigate their risk. They don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. UAE is actually a leader sometimes, when you're looking at energy management, you're looking at sustainability, you are looking at best practices, implementation of CAFM systems, CCC, central command centers, etc. We are actually ahead sometimes. So I visited the UK a couple of years ago where we were looking for a joint venture partner, not in my time with OCS, with the previous company. And we found that there was a lot of talk. And yes, they are mature markets, etc. And in some projects, they will have the best CAFM system, the best implementations. At that time, there were PDAs.
Yeah.
Okay, not mobility solutions like now on your phones. But it was in pockets, not across the business. What was sold to us that it was across the business.
Yeah.
But obviously, yes, in the UK, the level of maturity of FM is higher than us in general. But again, what pushed it is the legislation.
Yeah.
And here, I can say within the Middle East and Gulf, UAE definitely is at the forefront and is the leader across everybody else. Saudi Arabia is growing very fast.
Yeah.
And, their projects with those mega and giga projects definitely require, FM from the design stage.
Yeah.
So that, you can have the best facilities from operability and maintainability point of view.
Yeah.
So that's why people now are doing FM design reviews and then service levy models to understand the service charge, and then how can they have a reduced cost for the service charge and for the operations of that, complex or master community in the future.
And do you think that FM is sufficiently involved in the design stage, or is that still an area that requires?
With the big developers, definitely everybody is taking that into consideration. I'm sure when you are talking at the big developers here in UAE, I know for a fact that they are doing FM design reviews.
Yeah.
In Saudi Arabia, again, while my time in Saudi, I spent about 8 years in Saudi, 4 of them in FM.
Yeah.
We actually did a couple of FM design reviews. The biggest one was for the upcoming tallest tower in the world, the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah. And we did that, and it was very interesting to see the interaction between us and the designer, because normally we are employed by the client so that there's no conflict of interest. If we report to the designer, most probably half of what we say will be rejected.
Yeah.
So the head of consultancy at the time had a couple of interesting meetings, let's say, with the designer, so that they have adopted a lot of his ideas, which actually affects the operations and maintenance cost in the future.
Yeah.
The FM service charge that will be offered. When you explain it to them, because, they will accept it. But a designer, if you tell him, this is wrong, he will get offended immediately.
Yeah.
When you tell him, okay, it is, you can do it better in this way because of this. Yes, there will be a little bit increase in the operations cost, in the initial cost, but then the running cost would go down. And sometimes actually it's a lower initial cost and a lower operations cost in the future.
But it's also quite difficult, I think, to sort of foresee what is going to happen in the future, because these enormous projects, and here in Dubai in particular, you see a couple still coming up.
Yeah.
How do you plan for the future? And then if you look at especially also sustainability being a very, very big topic in design, how do you try and foresee basically technological developments or practices?
Okay,
over
let
a long
me start
period of time?
with, if a designer or an FM consultant reaches that stage, that means he has spent maybe 20 to 30 years as a minimum in operations. So he can foresee what's going to happen by looking at the drawings.
Yeah.
Okay, so he can imagine it. And now, again, a lot of things have 3D animations, etc. But so the selection of the material, where it is, where you are positioning items throughout the design layout. Sometimes something as small as putting a curb or taking out a curb for a waste container to be taken out. This you can do in, let's say, 30 seconds. And if it is not properly placed or the design is not correct, it will take you 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So it is, a multiple of the time. That means a multiple of the cost.
Yeah.
I recall one time we had a mall in Khubar, and the designer wanted the trucks, for the waste trucks, to come down. So he, obviously the ceiling has a certain height. So he chose a small truck. He needed to get 6 trucks in.
Yeah.
So we actually came back to him and said, why to bring the trucks down?
Yeah.
Take it from outside, bring 2 big trucks. That saves you 40% of the cost. And again, you're talking about 40, 50 years for the lifetime of a mall minimum.
Yeah.
And then he said, but the truck, people will see it. We said, we can build here a small wall because it's a parking, and then you can use it for advertisement, so that another income for source of income for you.
Yeah.
And then you are going to save for the mall this amount of money. So the savings on that project for 40 years was 1 billion. Because you have to understand, in FM or in construction, whatever you see is like an iceberg. You see only 25% above the seawater, and then 75% is what you are going to spend on FM and how to bring life into that building or that facility for the next 40 years at least.
Yeah.
So
when you look at the UAE market and the different client relations that you have. Obviously, when you start a contract with a client, that is also again for multiple years, typically 4 or 5 years, sometimes longer even. In such a time frame, there is a lot of, again, practical innovation going on. How do you make sure that when you enter a relationship with a client, that there is enough room to actually bring innovation to clients over time?
That's actually something that we would wish all the time that happens, but sometimes you are restricted.
Yeah.
So the trick is to have a lot of those things as part of your overhead. Okay, sometimes the client would ask for it in the tender, and you have some room.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wouldn't have it. It becomes very, very cost driven.
Yeah.
The competition, procurement team always from the client side want to do their job.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the contract is not sizable, you have again little room to invest.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, a company like ours, we've just taken a decision that we want to invest in certain technologies, and sometimes we would share it between projects.
Yeah.
And that makes it for us cost effective.
Yeah.
So the latest thing which we've done is the virtual reality training. A couple of days we spoke about that.
Yeah.
And where we've teamed up actually with a company from Australia that has this VR headset, and the technician or the cleaner or the operator would wear it.
Yeah.
And he can then be in that environment where he can get that training one-on-one in the language that he prefers.
Yeah.
And then we can have that record and then help us actually assess the operative, technician, cleaner, etc. in the future when we are coming to promotions, etc. So the training now is more based or more around health and safety. So training in confined space, working at heights, driving a forklift, etc. And it has different categories from from beginner to intermediate to advanced. And it's about 20 minutes per training.
Yeah. And that helps you also, I think, to deal with the high degree of diversity that we have in the workforce over here, because a lot of the people are from India, Philippines, etc.
Okay. Actually, interesting fact, when I came to the UAE or to Saudi Arabia first, yes, I met a lot of people from India, and I didn't know, and I didn't actually understand that they would have many languages in one country.
Yeah.
And then it took me 10 to 15 years to figure that out. That in training, even I tried to put it in Hindi, the training, and the trainer said, but I don't know all the languages. And I said, excuse me, what languages? You are from India, they are from India. He said, no. We actually don't understand each other in some parts of the, subcontinent. So the good thing with the VR is that it actually translates, obviously not to all languages, but to a big number of languages, depending on the selection of the candidates. So obviously we have the Arabic, English, French, etc. And then Hindi. I'm not sure if I say it correctly. Is it Talim or Malim? I'm not sure. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, but I think it's Talim. According to that, the technician will have the questions in his language, because you can imagine it. It's in 3D environment, and then he's holding two joysticks in reality, but in the virtual reality, he's holding an iPad or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he scans a hazard and then gets a question, and then he answers it. In the normal environment for training, and this is how we talked about sustainability a lot. If you want to do training now and you have a lot of projects, you're going to actually send a bus to collect the technicians and the cleaners or the security guards from different locations.
Yeah.
So you are going to, have fuel, you have CO2, etc. And that's how we used to do it. And then when they come into a room, we have somebody that is speaking in a language. Again, historically, part of my mistakes, I used to ask the team to conduct it in English.
Yeah.
So some of the technicians, some of the cleaners, especially cleaners, actually don't know English. They know a little bit of English.
Yeah.
So they would act as if they understand. So then the next step was to translate it in Hindi. So that was the improvement. But we reached a place where now they actually do not need to come to a common area.
Yeah.
Okay, they can do it in their accommodation.
Yeah.
Okay, or they can do it on site where it is. The only thing that needs to be moved is the headset itself. So if a company has 4 or 5 of them, and it's a not a huge cost, but it is a cost.
Yeah.
You can move it around from location to location, from emirate to emirate,
Yeah.
and the people can have the training over there. What we found as an interesting fact is that the time, you have time to set it up, a time to start. So when you get the salesman, he will tell you, oh, you can do 20 in every 20 minutes, one training.
Yeah.
That's around the truth, but it's not the complete truth.
Yeah.
That's the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But in reality, it will take about 30 to 35 minutes to do each person.
Yeah.
Okay, so the setup and all this, obviously with time, our team became more efficient, but we found that we needed more headsets
Yeah.
for us to actually be able to go through
To cover everybody.
the everybody. And again, it is proportionate, but company has 15,000 employees, different from a company that has 1,000.
Yeah.
So imagine to have to go through all of those, and you have about maybe 60, 70 modules that they can train on.
Yeah.
So obviously you cannot do all this. You have to choose certain modules. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of headsets.
Yeah.
And again, you look at cost. So some of the challenges that anybody would have is how can you implement sustainability cost effectively?
Yeah.
That's a big challenge that everybody has, and I've been talking about this for the past, 10 years.
Yeah. So when you look at that, I guess that many clients have ideas about what sustainability means for them. And especially if you look at the built-up area that is existing, a lot of these buildings are not necessarily as sustainable as they should be, and modifications are being made, retrofitting, etc. Clients have strategies on how they want to move forward and keep in mind the environment, keep in mind the occupants in the building, the well-being in particular. How do you help in consulting clients on what changes to make to become ultimately a more sustainable building complex? Is that something that you're being consulted in, or do they drive basically their needs and wants?
It depends on the client, okay, our business partner. Now, actually, the buzzword moved from sustainability to ESG.
Yes.
Okay, people want to know the social aspect, the governance, in addition to the environmental aspect. So they want to ensure that, how we treat our people, how they live. We have signed the Anti-Slavery Act, coming out from the UN as a multinational company, and we encourage everybody to do that. A lot of people now are committing to net zero. We have committed to net zero in the UK by 2040 and globally by 2050. But going back to your question, we have to listen to the customer. We have to understand his goals and then see how can we work with them to reach their goals.
Yeah.
So I always say, what's your strategy? What's your goals? How we can align the FM strategy to help you reach your goals faster. Then we go to the real world. Okay, so if it is in the tender, and a lot of tenders now tell me about your ESG, tell us about your approach to sustainability, to technology, etc. You write that, and if you have written that, then you have costed that. And some customers wouldn't actually; they want a straightforward, tender.
Yeah.
So basically, sometimes, thanks God, a lot of tenders now are more output based. Sometimes you have them with a minimum number, but a lot of times now the minimum number is actually not a realistic number. So you end up putting your model and saying this is what it is. But as OCS, we actually like to have or ensure to have that we have sustainable products being used, green products. We partner with Diversey worldwide and other big brands that have green effect, okay, and they wouldn't harm the environment. And at the same time, we need to say how much you can invest. So building the partnership with the client, gaining his trust, and then telling him, okay, there's a little bit of a cost here, but this is the result. Now, there is obviously a minimum that we will not go below. So if somebody says, don't use green products, we say, sorry, we're not that company.
No.
So we can't engage, okay? But if somebody wants us to engage with VR, AR, augmented reality, and he's willing to pay for it to have it fully implemented in his project, obviously there is a cost. So if it wasn't in the tender, we build the relationship and then we ask the client, okay, let's do a test for you. One of the examples that now we are doing is with a hospital in Ras Al Khaimah, where we are actually looking at the disinfection through robots. So we are using the Omnia UVC, and the client now, we presented to them. We said, okay, let's do a demonstration, and then we are selling it actually not only as the robot itself, so pay a certain number of big amount of money. We are selling it as a service. So because of our understanding of the criticality in healthcare, we actually came across, we used to do the disinfection manually, and those UV lights are sometimes harmful. So how you enter the room, how you exit the room. With the robot, it does all this automatically for you. It's actually faster. It can help in the operating theaters. When you do it faster in an operating theater, then you have more time to actually do more operations, to save more lives. So we talk with the customer, and we now are trying to sell things as service, like software as a service, the SaaS. We are doing disinfection as a service. So DAS.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think that is also the big, that is the future, right? To bring not only technological innovation, but even redefining standard operating procedures, doing things differently. One of the things that I believe clients will immediately feel from a cost perspective if things are done first time right. And you don't have to come back all the time to the same problem, which is something that obviously is a hidden cost nobody talks about, because nothing goes right. Well, certain things don't go necessarily right all the time. When you look at the opportunities and obstacles with all the growth, with, by the way, also the environment that we live and work in. I mean, it's harsh, it's hot, it's humid. Assets are being battered just by simple fact of climate change, even here in the UAE. What's sort of your model to bring those innovations to clients, and how do you make sure that your people actually stay in check with that also?
You said something about doing something right from the first time. That's the definition of effectiveness. So the trick is how to have the buy-in and that culture reside within your team. So obviously ensuring that they are introduced to those things. We in OCS have something called the Innovation Hub, NOVA, which was actually presented this year. It's an online portal where we can upload innovations, or we can download innovations that have been implemented all across the globe, and then with the cost implication or cost savings for the customers. So if you have implemented something as simple as changing LED lights, how much did you save? And that's something very, very trivial, up to a complex change of a very big chiller or a chiller yard, and then you reduce the energy by this much. So it's a culture. You need to have, from your operations director to your facilities manager down to your engineers and supervisors, understand this and then pass it down to the technicians. And when it goes to the Soft services side, you have to have your soft services manager down to your supervisors understand the what's the benefit of using certain detergents, certain ways to disinfect, especially in healthcare environment, which we like to work in. Now we are using probiotics, enzymes, etc., in opening clogged drains or blocked drains. When you are looking at differential pressure across certain filters, how can you read it so that you go to more predictive maintenance? We're using the thermal imaging for certain boards, DB boards, to see how it is working and is there a problem. So to move from that preventive to predictive maintenance, and that way, again, sometimes it's actually more cost effective for us, but the main thing is that you're using innovation to improve the service on site. And sometimes, because we work a lot in critical environment, to convince the customer is a challenge. But thanks God, we have a couple of customers in healthcare in particular that, they are scientific. Make for me a test, prove to me, then we implement. So
those are the best.
Those are the best. You have other customers that are stubborn. For some customers are actually afraid. I'm sorry to say it, but they are actually afraid of the risk of change. And anybody in life resists change. If new, I know it from when I come to any job. There's a lot of existing staff. Are afraid immediately. I don't mean any bad intention for anyone, but people just feel
change is hard.
Change is difficult. And I think you can see it in politics when somebody comes from the opposition or a government change, how people are not comfortable at the beginning and they are skeptical. Would they actually succeed? Let's wait and see, and then I believe with every change something good will come.
No, and I think that puts a lot of emphasis also on education, not just only of staff, but also the client. Because not all clients are fully aware of what is possible now. And education is an investment that you, as a FM consultant in this way, have to make. To convince them. That is at least also our own experience, that quite some time needs to be invested in that.
Education is very important. Internally for us, we have a very nice portal that has about 500 modules. But that's not your question. Your question is with the client. And with the client, if the project is big, you have somebody senior that actually will be interacting with the client, and they can have that day-to-day interaction and basically work together. Sometimes even the client, he didn't reach that client trap without passing through operations. Okay. But on the smaller projects, this is where I feel the challenges. One, because our FM or the manager or the engineer is part-time, not full-time, and to meet with the client regularly is a challenge. However, where the opportunity comes during the monthly meetings. Okay. So during the monthly meetings, we have somebody from our senior team attending. We make sure that we speak, our facilities manager speak with the operations director. Basically, they go through the monthly report. It's approved. We put some suggestions about the way forward. Part of it is actually upselling, to be very honest with you. Okay. You put all this effort to bring new revenue or additional revenue to the client. Now, sometimes it's a rectification. In the majority of the time, it's rectification projects. But I see in many places risks which customers are comfortable with. One customer, without mentioning the name, after this flood that happened, just 2 months back, we mobilized the project and we did a condition audit, and his fire pumps are not working. So we felt he was a bit comfortable with it. Okay, it's okay. There's the fire pumps, or the diesel pump, the jockey is not working, so it's fine. No, it's not fine. We explained to him the risk, and then okay. So how can we do it? We said, yeah, no problem. We will fix it for you.
Yeah.
And, we told him how much it will be, what's the risk, but if he didn't engage, and by the way, he used to have an in-house team.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is where our team did a great job to go to an outsource model. He understood. Nobody was there to explain to him the risk. So when we did the condition audit, we showed him the pictures and we said, listen, this is your risk and you are risking a building 120 million. Okay, so the insurance will not pay you.
Yeah.
So he said, how much is it? We told him X, Y, and Z, which is peanuts compared to the value of the building.
Yeah.
So our job is to help people protect their assets. Our job is to convince the customers that it is an investment.
Yeah.
FM is an investment. It's not a cost. A lot
Yeah.
of people use that word, cost.
Correct.
And I'm saying, no, guys, you are investing
Yeah.
in your asset. And, keep in mind, this gentleman in particular, he bought that building for 70 million. Now it's 120 million. Imagine it. He has a fire, God forbid.
Yeah.
He will lose all his money.
Yeah.
He will have the land cost, but the insurance will not pay him.
No.
So we said it's a small investment which will protect you, and
But I agree. I think that is indeed a misconception that FM is a cost. I think you should turn it upside down and basically say it's a value add at the end of the day. It's not only about the daily cleaning of whatever the task is. It is making sure the asset is protected over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And basically remaining its value or even appreciating.
After Corona, I thought people the whole perspective of the country, the world, will look better at, FM operatives, especially the cleaners.
Yeah.
And, they did a fantastic job. So you had obviously the police, you had the nurses, the doctors. I thank them from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
But also without the cleaners at that time, I'm not sure what would have happened. And I'm talking across the world. In the UAE, they were cleaning the streets, disinfecting the streets, if you remember, at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I had the flexibility because I work in an FM company to go out. And I saw, you go to a traffic light. I remember I used to live in downtown. And I'm going to my office. There's only me in the street. And I'm like, is it doomsday?
Yeah.
So those people really put a big effort at the time. And they still do. And they are the unsung heroes.
Yes.
And people need to appreciate them more. Because they play a big role in disinfecting, in cleaning, in maintaining their villas, their residence, their anywhere they go to a stadium to watch a football match or a concert. They put they work day and night literally for people to have a great experience. So I wanted to make sure to mention every single one of them and thank them.
And I agree with that. I think it's often overlooked how much is being put in to put it at the base, basically at the shop floor. I mean, it is tremendous the work that is being done. If you look back at your career and you look back at your younger Mohamad, what advice would you give yourself? Basically, sort of as the final question, what would you have done differently, or what advice would you give yourself?
That's a hard question, but I think have more work-life balance. People who know me know that I'm a workaholic and I give 110%. And in actually some stages of my life, it actually affected my personal life. And you need to have that work-life balance. It's very important. We work with our teammates more than 10 hours a day, and you see them, and sometimes even more. But again, it's very important that you look back at your family, spend time with your loved ones, with your kids, and with your partners, and make sure that it doesn't affect, because when damage happens, it happens. and it will be very difficult to rebound from it.
Yeah.
So I would tell myself, work less, and balance with your personal life.
Yeah, and play a little bit. So now and then. Thank you very much for the conversation. It was really nice to have you here as a guest today.
Thank you, Valvin. Thank you.
you.
It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you.